Yo, welcome to the Inconclusive show.
In this show, we talk about the things we want to talk about
We're just three lifelong friends
Brought up in three different ways,
with three different
with
perspectives.
three different
three
perspectives.
different perspectives.
This is our show.
So stay tuned. Welcome to the Inconclusive show. This is me. I'm Arnett. I am hosting this. I am bombing right now. But to go on to my other people that are hosting with me, we have my friend Desmond here, and we also have my friend Eric. And we want to speak a little bit about what's the climate of what's going on today in this climate. That was bad. All right, but let's get into
climate. It. Okay. Do you want me to start with my police report?
I know. I've been trying so hard. I slept all night.
It was
trying to figure
okay.
this out.
I think you just overthought a little bit. But do you want me to start with the police report?
Yeah. You start with the police report, please.
Okay. First things first. We got to get the facts of what happened that fateful day and so many other days. This has happened in America. So, with this latest trial, we have George Floyd, who walked into a store and gave the clerk a counterfeit $20 bill.
Supposedly.
In which
allegedly.
Allegedly. The clerk called the police. The police came and arrested George Floyd. I guess something happened, and somehow he ended up in the street, laying on his stomach with the cop's knee on his neck for 8 minutes, in which he passed out for 2 minutes, and by the time the ambulance got there, he was pronounced dead.
And he also mentioned that he couldn't breathe multiple times, and his body was hurting.
He was pleading for his life.
And it took the cops. It took the cops an extra 2 weeks.
2 minutes.
Not two. Was it? It was 2 weeks, right? Or no. The other 4 cops that got arrested after the first one.
Yeah, it took a while for them to be
Other
charged.
Other three cops. Let's keep it.
But it's three.
Yeah,
three cops.
the other 3.
Yeah, 4
There's
total.
4 total.
We're gonna go in order here. So, first things first is, anyway, George Floyd was pleading for his life, and he ended up dying. First things first, what came about that? What
Jesus,
happened?
Porky the Pig, get it out. Come on.
Sorry, what happened because of this?
So there was protests that were shot out all across the world. This is the world pandemic at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Epidemic.
The
Epidemic.
world, all 50
the world.
states.
It's going on in France.
I
Belgium,
know.
everywhere.
And I'm saying every single state in America, including the Amish
does that
community.
not include the world? Jackass.
You know what I'm trying to say. God.
Anyway,
Because if the Amish come out and say something,
All right,
yes,
enough
there was
of
an
this.
explosion
Back to the
all
seriousness.
around the world.
the Amish,
This
Amish
isn't a joke
are
about it,
quiet.
guys. Come on.
So
let's be serious.
there was an explosion of
themselves.
protests all around the world. Black Lives Matter.
Yeah,
Black
Black
Lives
Lives Matter became basically the biggest platform to put out your white guilt and have it seen and
Do what
maybe
now?
have it seen
out
and
your
possibly
white
be
guilt?
exposed. Because
Oh my God.
I mean, people are like dreading. All right, go ahead, because I am not doing.
I
this
was just saying,
justice.
put out your white guilt. There's no way. I mean, so anyway,
Who is white?
know,
I know. I was
Like
saying.
me.
No, I
I'm
was saying
mixed, but like-
a whole lot of people were like proposing their hatred for the white supremacists and the white nationalists all on Instagram, Facebook, any social media you can see.
Oh,
and Black
okay.
Lives Matter became literally the biggest thing to be seen out here. So people were really drawn to learning more about the culture, and they still are at the moment. So I like to keep our foot on those necks and keep people driven and motivated. And I kind of want to have this be kind of a cry or scream or yell for for we need more. We must demand more. We must go for more, and we must stay true to equality, true simplistic equality.
I think for future sayings, we should probably stay away from foot on the neck. Stick with foot on the gas here. I'm not laughing about the situation.
I think it works perfectly.
You know.
I think it describes the situation, and I think it describes what needs to be done. Right. I think it it's time for the corrupt and the very racial system that was put in place, that was brought against not just black people, but it did start with the black people, and it also goes into the minority culture, but it people of color. So
it's been 10 days since this happened. It's been 10 days, or 11 days, since this happened. I think.
Well, it happened on the 25th. There was
wrong.
31 days in May, and there's 6 days, so it's 12 days.
12 days. Okay, so it's been 12 days since this happened. There's been so much.
Almost 2 weeks since it happened.
And so much has happened.
A lot of uproar has been caused.
So from the beginning, we had the protests. People marching, peacefully through the streets of pretty much every state in the United States. And it was peaceful. I think cops were around, and eventually these peaceful protests turned into so-called riots. Right?
No, I'm pretty sure there were riots
on the day of the protest.
2 days later.
I think the first few days it was pretty peaceful.
No, let me clear it up. So no, the first few days it was not. So because in Minnesota there was a news reporter that was arrested. There was a burning of a full town. So I don't know if that's exactly what we consider.
Was that the day of?
I believe that was the next day. Like once it came out. Check my facts. But I'm pretty sure it was around that time. So it's only been 12 days since it happened, and we've seen everything that's going on. So it's moved, and it's moving at a rapid pace, and I think it's finally opening some eyes. These things that are going out, these protests that turn into these situations. So
the gist, there was protests, then there was rioting that turned into looting. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about the looting.
Okay.
Yeah, let's elaborate more on that. This would be interesting to see.
Right,
gotcha.
So we have protests, rioting, and looting. In my opinion, the protests and rioters are different than the looters, and I feel like it's separated. There's a group of looters, and there's a group of protesters. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Right.
But I don't see how the looting is necessary. I don't understand it.
The looting is never necessary. I've learned these past few days that the looting always started with white people riling up crowds, and they'd be the ones to charge into the buildings, but they just leave after. I've seen some white people there.
I heard something
and
different. I heard something different on how the looting started. See, for me,
no, this looting was different.
The way I heard it was that the people in, I think it was Minnesota, went to a Target. At this protest, it turned into a riot, and so they were being tear gassed. They went to the Target where they were protesting to get milk, because I guess milk or whatever, it helps, calm down the skin. So they went to Target, and the Target denied them service. So they said, we're not serving the protesters, so get out, basically. And that's where it started, was they felt like Target deserved the looting. And in that case, I was like, hey, people are in pain here, and you don't want to serve them. And to me, that just seemed a bit racist in a way. Like, that was just kind of silly. And I don't think it was Target.
Wait,
Yeah,
Target
I don't
was
feel
racist?
like not Target itself. I feel like it wasn't a decision Target made. I think it was probably a manager there who was just like, don't serve these people. Probably the manager was racist.
Oh.
Okay, my thing here is I think you shouldn't blame who the messenger is because then it gets convoluted. I don't know who the messenger was, but let's just say Target because we don't know if they were giving money to the police department. We don't know if they were giving money to judiciary systems. We don't know if they were giving money to government officials, politicians.
At this point, they're not. No one's getting money.
Okay,
this is
at
like
this
the
point,
first.
but
This is the first looting.
we're talking about the day in question, the day that they were rioted. So I think that's very important because before you can see a track record if they've been giving money to these police departments and these because of course they would want their building to be intact and they would of course want to be able to bend the system. Okay, I want to speak to that, but I'll let you finish what you're saying and I'll finish the point at hand we have here.
Well, I really wanted to focus on the looting. Like, how do you guys feel about the looting?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure to
I
talk
thought
about
it was unnecessary and kind of silly, and I think that the media really messed it up, or put everyone together in that boat where they said the protesters are rioting and looting, as if everyone that was protesting was also rioting and looting, and it just grouped everyone in this boat, and I disagreed with that.
All right, you go ahead, Desmond. I have a feeling mine's going to be long-winded, so go ahead, Desmond.
I spoke with Aaliyah about this. Looting.
Aaliyah,
it doesn't solve anything.
His girlfriend, not Aaliyah, the one upstairs.
Aaliyah is.
Rest in peace.
Aaliyah is my girlfriend.
But rest in peace.
In heaven, Desmond, Aaliyah.
Oh, no, not the singer.
See, I don't. For me,
it doesn't solve anything, and
I don't know why I don't like that.
From what
saying.
I've heard, from what I've heard, is it's just.
I don't know why I don't like the saying doesn't solve anything. I don't know.
It doesn't solve anything. I don't care what you like. It doesn't solve anything.
I don't like that saying because it sounds like everything we're doing is. I guess everything we're doing is trying to solve something. So never mind. Stupid point. I mean, I don't know what it is about the English language that I hate, but that I don't like that. I don't know why.
Okay, well, it just relates to more violence. It doesn't create peace.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, what about the protesters? You talked about the rioters. What about the protesters? The looting?
The protesters are doing their right. They're doing what they have a right to do.
No, but I have my.
I
wanted to hear Desmond's opinion because you kind of told your opinion on the protesters and the looters. So.
No. Okay, protesting and rioting. I agree. Like you have to speak out. Like with that stuff, like you have to make your voice heard. You have to be able to speak up when there's injustice and injustice being done. And in this case, police brutality has been going on for hundreds of years. And we're just now doing something about it.
We've been doing things, but it feels like
in Milwaukee just reenacted into law that something about excessive force. If you see a police officer using excessive force, the other police officers have to hold themselves accountable about
we'll get to
excessive
that.
force.
We'll get to that. Looting and rioting.
Yeah. Okay.
Arnett, what is your opinion? We've been waiting.
Yes. Okay. So, protesters and looters are different. I feel that there's a lot of mixing in this that's going on, especially in the media. The media plays a huge toll and huge role in this. I feel that they're not sending out the proper examples. There's some media outlets mostly that we see through our eye that we can see on social media platforms. So I want to thank people who are getting the proper story out. but there are a lot of media outlets that aren't getting the proper story out and are just looking for the most shocking thing to put out. So they're really just doing how the media's
Right.
how the construct of media is made. It's made to be entertaining, and the entertainment that they're giving us and pushing and feeding to us doesn't necessarily help and mend and heal our being as black individuals. So,
But Arnett, I see what you're saying.
wait,
but
I'm not. I was
the
just
fact
speaking
of
on
the
that point, but I'm going back to the protesters. So I wanted to speak to.
But I want to ask
how
you a
the
question
vision
on
of-
that point
Oh,
because
okay. I'm sorry.
it sounds like you're ignoring the facts.
See, I didn't finish. I didn't get to finish. So
Well, no, I wanted to just ask you, like, you know that there was looting, and there was rioting.
There was a whole bunch of.
I don't
facts.
think-
So. I don't think the media
Police-
can be
police-
blamed.
wait,
Police
wait, wait,
stations
wait,
got
wait,
burned
guys,
down.
guys,
Blamed
please,
for that getting
because I
out.
did not finish what I was saying because I didn't accuse of there not being
Okay.
looting or rioters or even people of color going out there and taking things themselves. So I'm not saying that that's a big thing, but the thing that they're putting out there is the most shocking stuff. So the most shocking stuff is the riot portion. How many times have you seen the protest portion being seen in the media? How many times have you seen it over the case of the last couple of days? The bigger stories have been the riots. The smaller stories have been the protest in the media outlet.
Well, the rioting
now,
is
social
more rare.
media has been doing a good job of showing the whole entire picture because you get to see both sides. Now, you got to remember, this
Look,
thing is
I've
not
seen that
balanced.
too.
It's not good and bad. It's not a balanced thing. So we're trying to think of it with a logical mind. There's no logic to this. The thing is, you have to either be for change and equality or you have to be against. But that's what the protest is about. Okay,
I see what you're
thank you
saying,
for asking
and
how.
I've seen the same.
Because that's the question that needs to be asked.
Media.
How?
I see
How
the
is it-
media
How should it be done?
where it's like,
So
but it makes sense. Bad always outweighs the good, no matter what, and whatever you're
but,
doing.
But I want to stop. I want to stop you. I want to have you at the part where you said how. How do we move on from here? How do we make this a just protest thing? How do we make change and enact change in a peaceful way, like the protesters are trying to do?
Yeah. Well,
So-
I didn't say how.
Okay, so is that a question that you would want to ask, though?
No, I didn't say how. I was just saying that I've seen what you've seen, and I understand what you're saying, but we all know that everyone's protesting. We know this.
Okay.
And if you go on Instagram,
Yeah, everyone's
if you go to
doing their
Snapchat
part
and you
in
go to
protesting.
that little map, whatever it is.
If you go out
in the
there and you see
daytime,
the
during the day,
protesters.
you see protesting. You see
Okay,
it.
but here's my thing.
Media, yes, they always take the worst. They always take what's bad.
Wait.
But it's up
Guys,
to
I don't-
us.
Media
hold on. I don't-
media has no
Wait, guys.
media does
Okay.
no justice to this whole thing going on
No,
because
I was gonna
Go
say
ahead,
I don't
go ahead. I'm
need
just saying that.
I don't need to be informed on what the media is or what they do because that is exactly what I'm saying right now. My thing is that the riots that are taking place aren't on the blood or on the hands of the protesters. Like I like that we divided it because the rioters and the looters are one and the same. The protesters are a completely different batch of people.
I disagree with
and those
that,
people
too.
are in harm's way.
I think that the protesters and the
Eric,
rioters.
I said the rioters and the looters are on one side
Yeah.
of this, so that does
I think
does
the
not
rioters
mean
are
that
in
they
between.
aren't black.
The rioters are in
anyone
between.
Anybody that's on the riot side, that's on the side of taking what's owed to me, they're doing it in the wrong form.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying they're doing it in the wrong form.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is trying to get a quick fix when this is not an issue of quick fixing. This is the issue of really a bigger scenario that we can
It's
a
about the
bigger
big
thing
picture.
that we can really fix.
And
It's the big picture.
I was just
a lot of
saying
people
that-
here are missing vision. So that's the rioters. The rioters are missing picture.
Well,
missing
rioting,
vision.
Arnett, the rioting does. That's in between. The rioters could either be with the looters or the protesters.
In your opinion.
I think that in my opinion, protesters can sometimes lead to rioting because, people are riled. I mean, they're emotional. Protesters are emotional. Protesting is emotional. All it exactly.
All it takes is a few.
one
All
or
it
two
takes is a
guys
few
Okay.
bad
to
apples
go
to
and
start
start
that.
bad mouthing the cops, or the cops to do something because they feel like someone was disrespectful. But I think that rioting is almost an essential thing when it comes to something like this. Like, I think that more positive comes from rioting than negative. Looting, on the other hand, is just a negative. It's just negative. So I don't think.
So what's the difference? What's the difference between those two things? Because wait. Because I understand what rioting is, and I'm like I said, I'm not against it. I'm just saying that these people are lacking vision.
But I don't think
now,
the
some of
rioters are
it
lacking vision.
is due and just. I think you're right. That's why I didn't say I'm fully condemning them, because some of this stuff must be done.
What rioting
but
does,
all of it,
to me, is it makes you look. It makes you see what's going on. Because protesting, you can ignore protesters. Like, you don't have to. I mean, if you're not downtown and the media is not covering it 24/7, you're not going to know that anyone's protesting. There's tons of protests all the time. But once rioting starts, you notice the media loves it, right? They want to see fire. They want to see, maybe not damage of property, but setting fire to something in the street. I mean, you're not really hurting them when you're just attracting attention. It makes you look. Whereas looting, no, I didn't say setting. No. I said not damaging property. Like, you can set fire to anything in the middle of the street, but that isn't someone's property.
I want to answer two questions. So the first thing is, your approach is exactly right. That was the Black Panthers approach.
Right.
The Black Panthers approach was exactly what you're speaking on now. You can't always do things in a civil
Peaceful manner.
You have to be sometimes. It's still peaceful, but you can feel the aggression. Like, for instance, I don't know if people know this, but the Black Panthers used to sit out and watch police. They would watch the police officers do their job. So they would they'd be there at the sitting there when somebody was being pulled over, and they'd be right behind a cop car because they were driving behind the cop car all day. And what they would do is they'd wait for the police officer to pull somebody over, and they'd be sitting out. There'd be a couple people out there with their guns drawn and making sure that he would be doing his job correctly. Now, they didn't have not their guns drawn, but they'd have their guns in their belt. So it was a very high-stakes situation. So it was very much a Mexican standoff. So it was do your job or you can see the consequences. And
Where is this going,
It was
Arnett?
the fact that it was – okay. So where it's going is that the rioters – all right, so the rioters are going off of a piece of that thinking. The rioters are knowing that we can't necessarily get this off of all peace and all civil doing. So some of this stuff must be destroyed. Some of this, and then a lot of that just comes from pain, oppression, and just repressing
Anger and emotion.
all this stuff for so many years. Anger and emotion. But I don't want to just speak to them. My second portion was that the people that are in those protests aren't all for the same thing.
I 100% agree with that.
There are some people in there that are actually truly white supremacists. There are people out there that are actually out there just anarchists. There are people that are hurting because of the corona epidemic, the coronavirus.
That's another thing I want to talk about.
In this country is, yeah, there's a whole lot of people that are out of work. So what do you think this is all?
Yeah, and that doesn't make sense to be in the same.
Yeah.
Like, we don't forget Corona's
But
still going
I want
on.
to touch on
That's
that
why
too, because I think that
That's why I say these people are heroes.
this explosion,
They're out there in this time.
right? So I think I was gonna mention that too. Was I think a lot the reaction that we got from this George Floyd incident had a lot to do, or a little bit to do, with how everyone's kind of home, and whether we like to admit it or not, this coronavirus has a lot of us on edge, and as And like, what are we gonna do next? You know, we're stuck in place right now. And I think that this George Floyd's incident really kind of sparked something in people because of the uneasiness of how we've been feeling.
It's known as a tipping point, and ever since then, there has been more blacks that have been murdered over the past past 10, 15
Let's
days
keep it in
because
context.
of it. And that they don't get enough coverage though. So I think it's a matter of dealing with it from the presidential standpoint.
That's another thing we're gonna go and get into.
Hell no. Did he do his best trying to
So
I don't
that's
think
a transition.
He did his best.
I do. Arnett, Desmond, I want to talk about this from the beginning, and I want to go into what exactly you're about to say. And one of the questions is, what has Trump done as president of the United States, as our leader and person who's supposed to unite us, right? What has he done?
He brought us right back to 1964.
I mean,
is what he did.
Yeah, and it's an incredible thing to have a president take a side. No matter what, if you're a president of the United States, no matter what, you don't take sides in a situation like this. You can't take sides. You're our leader. You're everyone's leader, not just the police's leader. You have to like.
He's not my leader.
Yeah, you have to unite. At this point, you have to unite. Everyone has their opinion, but you can't.
Yeah, opinions are like assholes, but at the end of the day, it's all a matter of coming down to vote. We have to vote in November. You can talk shit as much as you want, but voting will do the job. Voting will
hopefully
get this man out of the White House. Because what he has done is he has unraveled all the progress we have made over the past few years, the Obama era, and he's brought it back down to pretty much 1964, 1965, and I'm not saying what all of that he's done is bad, but when it handles regarding race issues,
and I'll say that everything he's done is
like
bad.
This is like the worst.
He's an idiot, and I don't want to acknowledge anything that he's done that's good.
Yeah,
all right, Mr. Black Republican.
As a black man, I will not defend this man on any counts.
The thing is,
what he has done is
the employment level.
Put my people in murder. He has sentenced them to death, and he has done it through police brutal force. And he hasn't just done it to us. He's done it to all the people that are out there that are protesting, who are just wishing to have a better life, who are looking for equality. You got to remember, the thing is equality. The whole thing is equality, and we're getting shut out and put into our houses, and we're being pushed into dark corners, and we're being put back into the exile of America, and that is what's going on, and that's what's being seen right now by America. We don't give a fuck about your equality. What we care about is what we care about. What we have here in place now is more important than anything you could ever bring up.
I think,
and that speaks volumes.
In my opinion, it's a fear of losing power. And you talk about the most powerful people in the United States are white people. And it's a funny thing because I don't even think they are consciously thinking about it. It's just like this thing where KKK, some are consciously thinking about it. The ones that are smart enough to actually understand it are thinking about it.
Wait, okay, I like your PC answer, but what I want to say is, if it has nothing to do with you and you've been on top for the longest, your idea isn't the same, isn't go out and search for these things. How many people have you ran across that are of white descent that think about looking up political figures that were or even philanthropists in the black field? How many people have you ran across that think to look that stuff up? We were taught the European style of history. We had to search out and look for our stuff ourselves because we knew as black people who we were.
Right.
But we had to go and search for it. And some of us even went further and searched for other stuff. But when you know history, it's different. So if their history is all they wanted to know, now I'm not saying this is for everybody.
And maybe
'cause
not
there's
wanted.
obviously white allies, and there's obviously white people that don't think in a certain way. They're not all bigots. They're not all nationalists, and I'm not trying to include everyone in a group. So what I'm saying is, it's very hard to look outside yourself and look for the well-being of somebody that's not yourself.
Right. It's true.
It's not
that's
easy.
for everyone. That's for black people, white people, Mexicans, Asians. We don't.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't research
But-
Asian history. I don't.
But it's a
research
burden.
Mexican history.
Wait, stop there, because it's a burden that the American people have to be given, that Black American people have to be given, because African American history is not taught. It's something that has to be learned through your own searching. Even though we've been in this country for longer than just about anybody else.
Right.
Any other minority you can speak to outside of the Native Americans. Everybody
if not
everybody
longer,
but the
if
Native
not
Americans,
longer.
we have been here for longer than.
Well,
And
yeah.
we're not even mentioned outside of a month's worth of stuff.
Well, what you mean? Well, hold on. Eric, what do you
Weren't
mean?
the Spaniards here first, and then they brought us here later? I don't mean to sound.
Look, the Spaniards. First things
No,
first.
that was more
that's
South-
something
that was
that
more like South
all
America.
lives matter type shit right there. That's some all lives matter type shit. Right there. So
No, it's not. I did. Wait.
What I wanna say
No.
is-
You cannot leave me on that note. You can't say that. That's what I was saying. I did not say that. Okay. I was just saying
Anyway,
that
so-
I don't want to be emotional about this and say black people been here longer than anybody else. When the fact of the matter is, I don't ignore the facts. The Spaniards were here first. It is what I was taught. Then they brought over slaves and all that. So, yes, we were here longer than anybody else other than the Spaniards and the Native Americans. But,
First things first. Actually, if you want to be honest, if you want to be quite frank, the African people came here off ships before, because there was a trade between there and South America.
See,
now, if you're speaking
that's where
on
I have
trade,
I don't think that's true.
There was a trade that was even before them.
See,
so if you
we
really
had
want
this
to go
we
to
had
the
this
full
discussion.
history of it.
Arnett, we had this discussion a little bit later.
Okay, but let's go
We're
back
gonna
to
talk
because
about.
the
I
other
think
stuff
that has
is
to
more
be the
important
next
than what we're
show
about to talk about
because
right now.
we have to talk about the next show at the next show. Okay.
We'll
Someone
talk
please
about it
make
later.
a
Let's
note
get
of
to it
that.
at the
Someone
end.
please make a note of that.
I wanna hold on. I wanna address something Eric said earlier. He said something about being in power for so long. I'd like to quote Star Wars, episode 3 to be exact, when Palpatine and Anakin were talking. He said to Anakin, I think at some point during their discussion, he said, "All those who gain power fear to lose it." That applies
Exactly.
specifically to today. White people have been in power for so long, they are just now realizing that they will be the minority 30, 40
I
years
can't
from now,
speak to that because
if not sooner.
they have shown it.
They will be.
It's shown in
by
history.
This studies shown by 2040.
White people will
by
be the
2040 in America.
that kind of
whites will
excites me.
Eventually
Okay,
become
okay.
the minority. However, listen. Hold on. I say that to say this. They
To
are
stay in
doing
power.
everything in their power. These Republicans, these Democrats, they don't like both sides. Both sides hate us. They're doing everything in their power to limit
The way I look at it is
our power, whether that be
you.
voter suppression laws,
gerrymandering. Go ahead.
whether that be gerrymandering, anything. I'm speaking from a black standpoint. They do anything in their power to
Exactly.
to keep us down, and I don't care. I'm looking at history. The Black Power movement
Eradicated.
was a prime example. The crack epidemic, the crack epidemic was a prime example. They see how powerful we are. They see how powerful we can get. So they will do anything. I'm saying this again. They will do anything, whether that be you name it. I don't know. They'll just do anything to shut us up
100%.
and to keep us docile and
And
They
once
love,
again,
they love our
I
culture,
want
but
to say,
they don't want to
I
understand
want to
it.
add something that
They
he's
love,
not talking.
They love who.
I don't think
Yes,
you're talking
everyone
about
benefits
all white
off of
people,
black culture.
right? You're talking about
Once again,
selected
No,
white people.
of course not. Of course not.
That, and like I said, I think there are some white people doing this subconsciously. They don't realize that,
because
that they're
I
doing
think it's like
this.
I said, it wasn't taught to them.
And hold on.
I was
Also,
trying to.
I want to say that this
been
is
handed-
not
it's
only
been handed
something
down.
that white people
It's been
do.
handed down.
This is not only something white people do. We keep saying white people to keep it simple, but it's not something only white people do. Black people do it to other black people.
Wait.
Other
Hispanics
black people do it too.
Asians do
Before
it.
we
It's
start
sad
speaking,
when other black people do it too.
before we start speaking on those communities, because you're absolutely right. But here's the thing: the system in place that America has brought, not even us. So let's go back to the rule of the British Empire, when the Indians in India, they still bleach their skin because they feel that fairer skin makes you better. The caste system was already there before, but before the caste system wasn't brought off race. I mean, it wasn't brought off skin tone. It was brought off of what you were on the system.
Right.
So the caste system grew and became something different, just like racism became like. Do you know what the first endangerment policy was? It was not off of color. It became the thing of
Class,
color.
yeah.
It was off of
first.
class.
It was off of
became
class,
thing
yeah,
of color
yeah,
in
it became
1488 when the Pope said, they said that we can now go off color.
In a
Because
way.
they invaded Africa, and they've been in Africa for a couple of years, and they saw that they didn't know their language. They saw that we were battling between each other, which is a completely different thing because they battled between each other too. So I hate that the
Pope quoted
that people
something.
bring into.
The Pope quoted something.
What was that?
I don't remember the quote.
But in 1492, the Catholic Church made it so that it was all color based, and it's been that since then. The Catholic Church, the Pope, and Christopher Columbus in 1492 made that so. So I just wanted to.
Okay, but it didn't really
America
take
wasn't
effect
built
in
then.
America till a lot later, because in America you still had. I know, but I'm saying that when not the discovery, what the fuck I'm thinking about,
The conquering,
well,
the exploration or the conquering
exploration
of,
to when. Yes, you had when the colonies first started. Just put it that way. When the colonies first started out, you'd have white indentured servants and you'd have black indentured servants, and during that time, the indentured servants only had a contract. They were worked on contract base. After a certain time period, the contract is up. You get some land, and you possibly get to inherit your former master's land. That's how it used to work. When there's this man, I forgot his last name, but this black man by the name of Andre, he became so wealthy and so powerful that because he owned the largest farmland before slavery. He was black, the largest farmland before slavery. And white people didn't like that at all. He had white people working for him. He had Indians working for him. He had other black people working for him. They didn't like that at all. And so they're like, oh, you know what? Laws have changed. We'll change the laws. We don't like it. Let's do it to something else. And so with that, that's when you started to see a more slavery revolve more around
but I think
dark
that's beautiful
around race
because it
here in
speaks
America.
to the fear of learning new. These people didn't want to know more into this culture. They didn't want to because they knew what was going on. They was like, we're funneling people in here boat by boat, and if this one can do it, then there's a chance that they can all do it, and that we won't have the powers that we wanted for so long. So that was the feeling then. And now we want to hold on to the feelings that we have for so long. And it's crazy because the civil rights movement, if you take pictures frame by frame for what we're looking at today and looking at what it was back then, exactly the same. And
It's the same
I
shit.
hate that people say that segregation may have ended in, they say, 1954, but it wasn't outlawed everywhere. Everywhere didn't take on the principle of that until maybe 1965,
Right.
which was leading up to the death of Malcolm X. Malcolm X
Right.
died in 1965. He gave the
Yeah, and however, once the bill was signed, I think I've mentioned this before, but Democratic President Lyndon Johnson. I remember reading something about this. He stated that, like, once I sign this bill, I'll have these niggers voting Democratic for the
And
next
the thing
200
that's
something
funny
years.
about it is that he was a known bigot. He was a known
And
racist.
that's it's yeah, he was, and that's the whole. Not all black
if
people
you
have
listen-
to be Democrats. I don't want to bring politics into it, but the Democratic Party was the party of the slave. Was
Oh,
the
yeah,
party
you gotta
of
listen.
slavery.
For all those out there that's
And
listening,
it
I need
was-
you guys to listen to the ballot versus the bullet, the speech made by Malcolm X, and I think this will put this in very good terms.
Right.
Perspective.
Yeah, but some people might say they
Ballot or
the
the
whole
bullet.
party thing switched. The Republicans are racist and the Democrats. No. Both sides
Absolutely.
are
They're
both
notoriously racist. I fear more of the Democratic side, because that's the sneaky side. You can be up front in my
Here's the
face,
thing.
like, at least I know where you stand. The Democratic side, to me,
It's hard. Is
the
I don't
most
think you can
sneakiest
say
and
that
the most
nowadays,
racist.
though. No.
Wait,
can't.
guys.
I
Okay,
think that's
before
Ah,
we
yeah,
get
you
into
can.
this, I want to
Change.
say this because I believe, my personal belief is that both parties are completely corrupt and should be burnt to the ground. And I mean that in a metaphorical way, obviously. But what I'm saying is they both do dirty deeds. The thing is, the friend of my enemy is my enemy. And the thing that people have been fed, black people have been fed for so long, is that my friend of my enemy is my friend. So the fact that if you really look at every faction of
No, it's the
again.
enemy
the
of my
friend of
enemy.
my,
Say it
like
again,
I said,
Desmond.
the black
I didn't
people
hear
have
it.
been taught.
The enemy of my enemy
It's
is
the
my
But here's the
enemy
thing.
of my enemy is my
But here's the
friend.
thing I keep saying, because the Democratic Party acts as a friend to the black people, and the enemy of him is the Republican side. They have to still be face to face with these people, and not all
Right.
these people hate each other. And I'm saying that there's a judiciary system that's made, and if you look in place, there's been over 206 conservative judges put in place, which means that's going to continue the cycle of what's going on in this country. You got to look at every facet that's been going on while this damn near Donald Trump rule has been going on. Because during this process, we have flipped back all the way back to the 60s.
No, we have. I
and
mean,
now it's finally seen.
So
We
the
have
saying,
flipped back to the
that's the
60s.
saying, but we are nowhere near how bad the 60s were.
We are.
We are not.
Let me put it like this.
We are not.
Let me put it like this. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, also Tommy Smith and John Carlos were all people who, luckily for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he was in the same pace as LeBron James is right now. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is damn near debatably the best basketball player of all time. 6 rings. Has 3 NCAA championships.
Yeah.
Has more points scored than Jordan.
Yeah.
Has
We get it. We got it.
so
Okay,
what I'm
okay,
saying
we get
is
the
why
stats.
is he not heard of as much? Because he was in this whole this revolutionary state. He was in the civil rights. He was out there protesting with the civil rights activists. He was out there being a part of the actually he was part of the Islam group, but he was Islam before he even joined the league. So it was just the things that he did.
Muslim.
He was Muslim. I'm so
Muslim.
sorry. I'm sorry. Those
Muslim.
two
It's Muslim.
fight and
He's
feud. So I
Muslim.
apologize for any of those that are Muslim. I appreciate you for even considering listening to me. But the Muslim faith. So
Rick Arnett.
you got to understand that's very serious. You don't know. If you don't know, I apologize because I do know, and I apologize highly for that. But so those that the whole stat line that I just showed you is just a piece of the iceberg. He's done so much. But Muhammad Ali was another person.
Arnett, I gotta ask where you're going.
Just to
with
consider,
this.
wait,
I'm
just
sorry.
go with Tommy Smith. Just to go with Tommy Smith and John Carlos. If you don't know who those are two people that was at the 1968 October 16th Olympics that put the fist up. Those two people that put the fist up. Those two could not find work. Once they came back, they were not allowed back into the Olympics. You got to remember.
Arnett, how is this
that
related
same
to
year,
the 60s?
April 4th, 1968 was the time that Martin Luther King died. So anybody that was speaking in communionship with the black nationalists or with the black people as a whole that was trying to give strength in numbers was getting gunned down. So people
Arnett.
So now look at Colin Kaepernick now.
Okay, there we go. Like,
So that's where we go back to present day. If you go to present day to when it happened back then, the same thing happened to Colin Kaepernick that happened to Tommy Smith and John Carlos. The only difference is they get to control the media that they have around them. They can't control all media, but they can control some media. So it doesn't look as bad to us, but if you really look at it, not much has changed. If you really look at it, not much has changed. Colin Kaepernick is out of work. Colin Kaepernick is out of work for a peaceful protest.
Okay.
He will never play another
But
down, just like Tommy Smith and John Carlos.
Let's not compare it.
Never get to run track ever
Let's
again.
not compare it to the 60s because
Why not? I just showed you how
the thing is
that's a
Arnett,
small little piece of how it's the same as the 60s.
It's an echo.
That was my whole argument.
But I'm saying that we can't say the 60s. We can't say it was like the 60s, just like we can't say the 60s was like the 40s.
We absolutely
We
are.
can't say the 40s were like the 20s. We can't say the 20s were like
Yes,
the
you can.
1880s. We can. We can
Yes,
say
you
that there are
can.
events that echoed through those times that that reminded people of what happened back in the day. But life is not like the 60s.
Here's the thing. I get what Arnett is saying.
That's what
I
I'm
get
saying
what Arnett
too.
is saying. History
but we
repeats
can't
itself.
say that.
You're
but
saying
in
life
different
is
forms.
because you don't feel the pain and the.
I agreed with what, like the way that you said it earlier was like it feels like Donald Trump is taking us back to the 60s in a way.
That's all I was
and
saying.
the way that he thinks and the way that he has.
You think it's just him?
No, but
It's the system as a whole.
I couldn't say. I would not
It's even
say.
further back
I
than
wouldn't
that.
say that it's like the 60s right now. I wouldn't say that.
I said if you took a photo of what's happening right now and you took a photo of what happened and you look at a photo that happened in the 60s during the civil rights movement, it looks exactly the same.
But we can't.
there's only
we've
more
made
there's only
so
more
much
allies
progress.
in the crowd.
Arnett,
That's the difference.
You're taking away the people's progress. You're taking away our progress.
The people's
because
progress.
We've been making progress.
I'm not taking away any progress. I literally just said something.
No, hold on. The only difference, I think Arnett is making a point by saying the only difference between then and now is for one,
No, what I'm
we don't have segregation. Two, there's a lot more cameras and we can capture it more easily. Three, the media covers it way more often. And C or D,
what I'm saying is
social media.
some of those things he said.
Social media plays a big part in this transformation
What I'm-
between the 60s and now. A lot has happened. Positive.
What I'm saying
positive
is-
There
things
are
have happened.
like I'm not
But
saying that
between then and now.
what I'm saying. Okay, let me
between
speak.
then and now,
I'm not saying that the things that have happened between the 60s and 2020 hasn't happened. What I'm saying, because I think that's where we're getting a disconnect. What I'm saying is that if you look at how much progress we have and what we expect it to be, is this equality? Answer me that. Is this equality we're
Expected
in?
to
If
be?
you go,
What do you mean expected to be?
I expect you would think by 1968 till now, you would have expected that we would have been equal people.
Nope.
We'd have been able to walk in the bank and not be. Is that so? You're saying that hasn't happened, right?
I'm saying that this is going to be a battle. I'm pretty sure that the people in the 60s weren't like by 2020 we'll be
Why?
exactly equal with everybody else. I mean, the
Okay,
fact,
my question to you is: do you think this is ever going to be over?
uh,
Do you ever feel you'll be an equal person?
if there's different skin colors, no,
That is sad.
and that's just the
That is
fact of the
sad.
matter.
Like, I'm not saying that's
I feel
you.
I feel like one day when the dust all settles, when the dust all settles down, we will eventually experience equity. We have equality, but not equity.
I think
Equity
just
and equality are two
the
different things.
the thing I'm
What's
talking about
making
is
you?
that maybe
What's
I feel
making
like-
you say that? And it just shows to go. It goes to show that the average black person has a broken mentality when it comes to equality. Because what Eric just told to me was he doesn't ever think he'll be seen as an equal person.
Not truly.
And that's big.
not truly,
Not truly. That's big.
and that's the thing.
And that's something that's sad.
But-
that's a strong pill to
Arnett,
swallow.
here's the
but
deal.
it's sad.
Here's the deal. Like like I said, as long as there's
true.
different colors, right? So the way that the United States
said
is
volumes in
going,
that.
the way that the United States is going, and literally, if you look at the whole world, the only place they don't have racial tension or racial problems is in places where everyone's the same. That's the only place. Japan,
Not racial, but
China,
they have. You're right. I'm not gonna
India.
swing this because we're talking racial.
everyone in India is Indian.
You're right.
Everyone in China is Chinese. They don't have these racial tensions because there's no different color. There's no different. Everyone in
Mind
China
you,
is Chinese.
people-
So as long as we have
People move
different,
there. There's not all Chinese people in China, and they do have, as we saw, they do have racial tension versus because they thought that Africans were bringing in COVID-19.
But what
You
I'm
saw that
saying
story?
is there's African Americans in China. What they occupy like 0.3% of the population, if that.
I'm not saying
Not
that that's the
even.
problem. I'm saying wait. I'm
Not
saying
even.
it's they're still ridiculed as if
Okay,
they're lesser.
but there's no tension because there's no African Americans
That's
in
tension.
China. That's not tension. That's just they have.
That's
they-
tension for those black individuals.
No, they have.
and that's not all of them.
What they have is they see media, they see U.S. media and how black people are portrayed in American media. So of course they have their certain things about black people because they the only way they get their black information is through U.S. media, you know. But what I'm saying is, as long as there's
but
different
what-
colored people, there's going to
Right.
be racial tension, no matter what. Because
So
Right, and I'd also like to mention, going outside of the United States is that Russia and China are vying for the number one, number two spot. They completely see us blowing ourselves
Okay.
up from the inside, and they see this as an opportunity to try and
so
do
my
whatever.
question is this.
To get into that number one spot. So I feel like we as the United States, we are seen as the land of opportunity, right? We're seen as the land, quote unquote, land of the free, home of the brave, whatever. If we don't fix this now, we will have more consequences to
But I
pay
don't-
besides
Desmond,
race.
I disagree
Okay,
with
wait.
that only because we've had it for
In
so
the
long
future.
and it's been so much worse than it is now.
Oh,
So
okay. Let me put
Russia
it like,
and China, they're doing.
I don't
want
want to speak on that.
I don't think they'll really ever catch us. I mean,
I
there's
wanna
been
go
so
back to
many
what he
people
was
that,
saying, 'cause-
okay,
Wait.
I
Let's
think
go
so.
back to the race thing because I want to say something. I want to say, do you feel there's a chance for African Americans to be equal? I'm not talking about race anymore. Do you think I think racism will exist for a long time. It will be in a smaller portion. It'll get smaller and smaller and smaller, and it'll get to a place where it's crushable. But at this point now, we're working on that with this movement. We're working on getting rid of racism. But us as black people, do you think we can get economic control? in a community, can we get a community? The thing that's closest to a black community at the moment is Atlanta. Atlanta is probably the best shelter. The best thing to say is a black community.
Right.
And I thank God for those people. Thank God for that country. I mean that state, that city.
They have their flaws.
Because
they have their flaws.
because
so
they're
they have a
because
lot.
they're
Might as well
showing
be a country.
because they're still working on the system. Look, here's the thing: if you ever watched Dr. Claude Anderson, he has a great plan on this, and I think I just posted this on my Instagram. But he has a great plan for it. So you start in with small businesses. You have small businesses, and we all get in there and we do that. The next thing on that is politicians. We aid people to be politicians. We do just like all these other groups do, and we put money into politicians. That way we can be seen as, okay, we are business owners, and we need our places secure. Okay, the step after that is step 3. And step 3 is better. I think step 5 is education. Step 3 is so after politics, it's the police. So what you do is you make sure that the police are now on your side. So once you have the politics on your side and the police on your side, the next step that you have to move towards is I cannot remember it. I apologize right now. It really left my mind, but I know step 5 is education. And educating our youth and educating our people. But we have to start with making sure that we come back to a community that is ours. And Atlanta is a good example of that. People may even go out of country, go out of state, and then come back to Atlanta and either start a business after a couple years. Because once you're out of college, you might be a bartender or a waitress or a waiter or something, demeaning for a couple years. And then after that, you jump in and then you get into your own business. And I see that happening a lot in Atlanta. And I think they're really following his principles of his economics. So economics is something that's big that Black America needs to learn. Because once you can learn how to control a city, then you'll learn how to control bigger and better things. You can get more political control. You can get more control in your own city with policing. You can get more control of how education is being taught in your city. You can get better programs, but you have to start with the small businesses. You have to make sure you have small businesses. That's why I think it's very big. I've been posting a lot about small business, and I own my own small business myself, and I think it's very important that people make sure to protect those small businesses, minority and black, because the black dollar doesn't bounce in our community at all. So every night at 7 p.m., the black dollar is gone every night, because what we do is we don't bounce in our own community. We don't go out and go to a jerk chicken place. We don't go out and go to our own barbecue spots. We don't go to places like that. We go to the other people's places. We go to the liquor store, and who's at the liquor store? Either a man of Middle Eastern or Indian descent, or he's Asian, or he's white. But we don't see a lot of black-owned businesses. And the thing is, we need to make a difference in our community. We need to stay close where we're at, and we need to make businesses in those cities and make it so that more of our kind can do it right next to us. We have to bridge that gap so we can see the change that we want to see. And I think that's a big thing about the next step in this phase. Yes, we want police brutality to stop, but how do we do that? We started by showing that we have economic power, because we are the only ones in this country who does not have economic power. Everybody else before it goes out of their community, in the Mexican community, it goes 6 to 8 times in their own community. Before it leaves out the white community, it goes between I think 12 to 16 times in their own community. Before it leaves the Asian community, I think it goes between 20 to 24 in their own community. Now, mind you, my numbers might be off, but I do know that in the black community, it goes in our hands straight to somebody else's, and we're the only people in this country to do that.
Okay.
So I think we need to make a difference.
So, it's about that time But I
Okay.
I want to show you guys some things that this whole thing, the protests and the George Floyd incident have
Yeah.
caused, because it's pretty. Here are some pictures here, and this one is like one of the coolest ones I found. Is
Can you
black.
describe it?
No, I'm about to show it to you guys
Okay.
right now. Well, this one. Okay, so this one is
For the viewers?
it's,
For the viewers.
they're damaging property here, but at the same time, it's kind of cool. The picture is kind of cool.
Okay. Oh.
Maybe not that one. Hold on.
Okay.
What is all that
Hold on, but
sound? I don't know.
What was that? What
Wait,
was that
before we
noise?
do end, I do want to talk about all the other people who have passed away, who have been killed in the lights of police brutality. I hope there's justice for all those people as well, because the system in place needs to be demolished and burned to the ground. Symbolically, it definitely needs to be gone and needs to be eradicated, and we need to see change in these policing fields. Definitely in the judicial fields as well, but we're gonna mostly mark our space towards the towards the policing field, because that's who's killing us at the highest rate.
Right, but and this is also a good time to say that not all police are bad. I've ran into some pretty decent cops in my day.
Same.
I've never gotten pulled over, knock on
I
wood,
have.
gotten a ticket,
I've been
knock
pulled
on
over,
wood, but
and I have been.
I don't want to believe
Okay, I have a
that
story.
all cops are terrible,
Um,
because they're not.
But I don't have the notion that all cops are bad. Like I said, the system that they have in place is the thing that's really the problem.
Arnett,
because
we're
they are
leaving.
taught a certain way.
Arnett,
Yes, they're taught a certain way.
Art,
They're taught a
Arnett,
certain
wrap it up.
way, and it goes the other way.
Arnett, bro, it's time to
But-
go. It's time to go.
All right, but I'm sorry I didn't have enough time. Check us out. Please follow us on Instagram, YouTube. What's that name for us, Eric?
It's the Inconclusive Show, and I think on YouTube it's the Inconclusive, or just Inconclusive Podcast. And before we go, I want to
Inconclusive
show you
Podcast.
guys this one picture that is really dope. That
We're leaving.
an
We're
artist
leaving.
did.
We're
No,
leaving.
Look.
We're out of here.
Black Lives Matter, and it's like written across. And I'm gonna put this in the video.
I've seen that.
Yeah, it's super dope.
It's
But yeah,
inescapable
check us
in
out.
Washington D.C. It's inescapable.
It's down. It's like down.
It's like
the
right
street
across
to
the street from the White House, which is nice.
which is dope. So, it's not across the street. It's on a street.
Yeah.
Desmond.
That's across
Anyway.
the street, basically.
I hope that evokes change in any way,
It's
shape, or form.
across the
I hope
street
it
from the White
evokes
House.
change in
You
any
can
way,
see
shape,
the
or
full
form.
picture.
But at the moment, I think we need bigger things than art
Thanks for
pieces. But
listening
thank
to
you
our
for listening
show.
to the
Goodbye.
show. I'm Arnett.
All right.
These are my co-hosts Desmond and Eric. Have a good night.
Peace. Black Lives.
Peace.
Black Lives Matter.
Peace.